Hey, thanks for joining the Weekend Rewind. Today's conversation, we all know that with relationships, they require ongoing maintenance. It's not just about setting and forgetting. And I think that's the hard part, right? So continuing conversations, staying present in each other's lives, getting the space to reach out, reconnect, and make the effort. And today I'm replaying a conversation I had with someone who does this brilliantly. Her name is Sarah McVanel, and she's brilliant. Enjoy the listen, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. So who is Sarah? She helps individuals leverage the power of recognition to retain top talent, fuel healthy teams, and sustain healthy bottom lines. Sarah speaks nationally on the topic. She leads workshops, she coaches leaders, and conducts organizational recognition program reviews. Sarah is also a certified senior organizational development professional, a professional certified coach, and certified human resources leader. She is one of 1,500 certified professional speakers worldwide. All right, that's enough from me. Let's jump in. This is her third time on the show. The wonderful, the amazing, the rockstar, Sarah McVanel. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us again today.
Thanks for having me. I will see what I can do to add value to the other really juicy conversations. I don't know, it's like really weird. Last time we spoke was before COVID, so I think we're going to have so many important things to talk about today.
That's it. We've got the experience of time to really talk about. This will not be a repeat conversation. And in fact, I encourage you to listen to those previous conversations with Sarah. I have listeners still reaching out and talking about how much they love hearing from you, the value that you drop as well. So, it has been about, you caught up in the show-up community last year, but since March of last year, what has been going on for you and your business in terms of how you've moved your services and the work that you do now?
Well, of course, almost all virtual, and I'm in Canada, so we're actually in wave 4 now, and we've had a lot of lockdowns. So I got to tell you, I'm so grateful for the age that we're in, where we have so much technology to enable us to be speakers, facilitators, of course, coaches too. So, definitely the first couple of weeks when so many engagements were getting either completely canceled or more often postponed. In fact, some of them have been postponed multiple times because folks have chosen to wait until they can get back together. And we're still not meeting in person in Canada. So that's a big change, I would say, is moving to a completely virtual studio. Having multiple camera angles and technology enabled so that we can have a really good experience, and at the same time adjusting expectations to just be much more flexible. I don't know about you, Leanne, but I just have so many fewer parameters on my business, so many fewer things that I'm trying to make sure are perfect. How have you been finding?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. But before I dive into that, I just want to say, if you are listening to this, definitely hop on and watch the YouTube channel, because Sarah is just spinning her camera angles and using the tech really well. So I just wanted to point that out. That's so cool. Well, it's funny, Sarah. So the other day I had an in-person workshop, and the night before I'm packing my suitcase and things to bring. And I was so out of practice. I lost the muscle memory. I'm like, where is everything? Some of my pens, they'd run dry. They hadn't been used in over a year. Then we got into the workshop, and even after an activity, I said, okay, what did you discuss in your breakout rooms? And I was using the Zoom terminology in that live event. It really took me some time to snap back into it, and the difference in time as well when it comes to running those events. So it definitely was amazing, but I'm loving the virtual playground, and like you said, the opportunities that have developed since. We're friends on Facebook, and I've just been in awe of everything that you've done. You've created, was it Nurses Week? Can you just share something about that initiative?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, so much fun. So I come from healthcare. That was my work before going out on my own. And I was often the one trying to get involved in all of these appreciation weeks. I'm a recognition expert, so it's been in my DNA since before I was a speaker and facilitator. And my heart bled at the beginning of COVID when so many nurses events were canceled. Nurses Week within organizations and conferences, and just, in fact, a lot of them that I was going to speak at were some of them that were delayed. And you can understand it when it's temporary. However, when we start to hear that was going to be the reality again this year, I just thought, no, there is no way we are going to go another year without appreciating. And in Canada in particular, we make a big deal about Nurses Week in our organizations. And in the US, there's Hospitals Week and Nurses Week, and the really large hospitals actually break down all of the different professional groups and celebrate them, which is great. So what we decided, I approached one of my speaking colleagues who speaks largely for healthcare audiences, Stephanie Staples. She's a fellow CSP, so Certified Speaking Professional. There's 1,500 of us in the world, so she's amazing at what she does. And my speaker manager, Tammy Adams, who's also an event professional. Now she has her virtual events designation. And we, in 2 months, pulled together a 4-day, first ever North America-wide virtual appreciation event for nurses. We ended up having 26 organizations participate, which meant 26,000 nurses all across North America, like the tip of Nunavut, in the coldest fly in, fly out part of Nunavut. You know what that's like, right? You will work for a lot of fly in, fly out places, and to the tail of Texas ocean. And it was one of the most rewarding things that I have done over the last year. And the feedback we received. So for those of you who are listening or watching, where you're thinking, my business hasn't quite been the same, or my ability to facilitate and make an impact in the virtual space just hasn't been the same, I would say still look at what issues, what problems still exist that you're desperately trying to solve. And here's the thing that we never would have solved had it not been for COVID. The fact that we do Nurses Week really badly within organizations, and most of the nurses cannot actually attend and connect with each other, meant that it's a good idea in theory, but the practicality of it, the practice is really tough. So by bringing nurses from across organizations and giving them a menu of different topics and times that they could participate, connections were made that never would have made otherwise. It took the burden off of already strained healthcare leaders and organizational development, the internal facilitators, and we're able to find new ways to celebrate. We were able to go out to our network and get them to give us free cool things, courses and books and apps and all kinds of great things that individual healthcare organizations wouldn't be able to do. So I say get creative. That opportunity was available because of virtual technology, virtual amazing hosting services like the one that we used. And I don't think we'll ever not do it. That's all I can say. I'm doing this as long as people will show up.
Yeah. I love it. I love that you've just taken an event that maybe was done poorly. And the irony of it is that the nurses' healthcare has been smashed. And then to take away Recognition Week, it's like, I don't know, like we need to celebrate them. We need to celebrate these nurses, like even more so now, right? And the fact that you've just done this and challenged it and now made something incredible as a result, I think that just speaks to your superpower of again, spotting on opportunities, bringing people together and creating that excitement about it. Now, something I'm curious about, you've got a keynote out called, I've got it here, Recognition, Your Customer Retention Superpower. And we've just had a great example of how you've used it within your own business. And we've got a lot of facilitation business owners here that are curious around how you've managed to create loyalty with your clients, spot these new opportunities as well. Can you share a bit about that keynote and how it applies to us as facilitation business owners?
Yes. And it's funny because, again, that's another thing that was developed in COVID, was just completely tearing apart and rebuilding all of my keynotes that I had wanted to retire, got retired, because if I'm going to shift it over to be relevant in the virtual space, having to make the language juicier, the content more interesting, better hooks, because I'm not physically with people. It really stretches our muscles of how we build and package our content. And if it doesn't meet the test for virtual, it shouldn't meet the test for live. So there's some content, Leanne, that is totally gone. It's never come back out. It's maybe a story or two from those sessions. But one I've always wanted to do is the one that you talked about, where we talk about how recognition is key to valuing and appreciating people across the customer journey. I mean, the example I often give, at least in North America, a big issue we have is that they incentivize you to join. You know, all those meal kit companies that have popped up all over the place? You get this yummy deal, and like it's double word for yummy, right? It's a good, yummy money. It's still really good coupon, as well as, of course, this delicious meal kit. However, if you stay, there's no incentive. You only value new clients, new customers. And I would like to suggest that we as facilitators, we're kind of at an advantage because people obviously really know, like, and trust us. So my question, my challenge to everybody is, once you get people to buy from you, how do you keep them by showing them how much you appreciate them? So that's not just doing an amazing job in your planning, in your delivery, and perhaps even in your follow-up. It's what else are you doing that other people maybe aren't doing? What else are you doing to show that you really care and you value them? I'll give you a few ideas. Do you use a thank you card approach, whether it's handwriting them? I know, Leanne, I think you have your own branded cards, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely from your idea, like the send out card. So we'll put your link in the show notes for those. But I've been the recipient of your cards, and I remember how I felt as a result. And so you want to oh, I can share that with other people. Yeah. Yeah.
And that send out cards app has been instrumental. I think I've sent out 1,000 in this first 6 months of COVID, because people needed to feel that sense of connection and appreciation. But I was able to pull pictures from past events and make it a postcard with a little arrow that says, "Wish I were here." And so you can have fun with it. And it's so inexpensive. It's so small. I mean, my membership is $97 a month, US. And I can send an unlimited number of personalized cards, thank you cards. I even send them to my Nana all the time to make sure she feels appreciated. And so you can see how my kids are growing and that sort of thing. So that's not even a customer thing, but it goes back to the point of, how would you treat your friends? How would you treat your family? Do you treat your best customers that way? And given that we have usually a smaller group of customers that we want to serve so incredibly well, we can do recognition better than most other businesses that are on a high churn or a high need for new client acquisition, such as that meal plan group. So thank you cards, call up your clients, talk to them, say thank you. Don't necessarily ask for a sale every single time. At the beginning of COVID, when I had a little bit of extra time, I wrote a little mini book called Rockstar: Magnify Your Greatness in Times of Change, specifically for healthcare leaders. And I found the addresses for every single hospital in Ontario, and I autographed a copy, wrote a little thank you note, and sent a copy to every CNO, Chief Nursing Officer, and every CEO of every hospital in Ontario, because I knew that they would probably be the last people to get thanked, and they would probably be really stressed and strained, and many of them considering retirement at a time when we really needed them. So I just gifted that. And now that book is available as a free ebook, audiobook for anybody until COVID's over, or at least until we're all feeling like we're back to quote normal.
Yeah.
But that was a way of saying thank you, because maybe nobody would have bought that book, but the point is you don't have to. Everyone can have that as my way of giving back and appreciating people. So use your knowledge. What do you have at your fingertips? And send it generously to prospective clients, to existing clients. When you write a new book or a workbook, or you think of you package a bunch of cool workshop ideas together without them asking, just send it to some of your best clients. Don't make them trade your email address anymore, because you have their email address, but send them something so that they know that you're thinking about them. And that is why I know I do, and I'm sure you have the same thing. More than half of my clients are repeat clients, because I always assume that they're going to be, because I always assume that they're going to know how appreciated they are to me, and vice versa. So we create customers for life by appreciating them always.
Oh my gosh, we create customers for life by appreciating them always. It's so interesting, Sarah. A lot of the people that I talk to that want to build their facilitation business, when I mention that, they talk about, I need to get leads, right? So I need to get leads. And then the assumption is that the lead is someone new, right? And it's like, hang on, there's an existing base of people that you've worked with already. I think, as you said, we kind of overlook that. And we always, I don't know if it's chasing the bright, shiny object. And the acquisition curve, I mean, if we're talking of it in these hard terms, acquisition, it's a shorter time frame, because we've already built up that trust and connection already. Do you find that the people that you work with, like everyone's sort of seeking out new, like casting the net further, whereas they've got this nice little cozy home they can go back to?
Absolutely. Almost all of my best class customers that I have are people that I used to work with, or that I lived nearby, or I went to school with, or my former boss's sister's son. I don't know, like some kind of wild, wacky connection, and we're the right fit. So I would say look into your existing network. I do often do this exercise with clients, new entrepreneurs that I'm coaching. I'm sure you do this with the folks that you coach and you work with. Comb your LinkedIn list, your contacts list, and identify 100 people that already know, like, and trust you. And assume, even if they're not going to hire you, they might hire you one day. They can hire you if they don't know you're available. So for those who are considering branching out on their own, and I did this, I know you did this, I just took a few gigs before we even had a concept called a side hustle or the gig economy. Those weren't terms that were around back then. So dabble in it, take some of those opportunities, do the work of getting that list of 100 and start telling people, hey, you know what, I really love doing this. If I can help you in any way, or if you know somebody's interested. And that's it. Not salesy, not slimy, no coupons are necessary or landing pages, just connections, and see how it goes. Most people that you will start working with, I'm willing to bet, already have worked with you in some capacity, or they know, or somebody that you've been introduced to knows somebody. And therefore there's the social credibility, right? That social proof through connection.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about that connection. And as I said, I love that idea of just going through. I think that's something that we worked with when you were coaching me, was like finding those people and just sharing what you do, because we assume that everyone knows, even though we do one LinkedIn post. That's my announcement.
Yes. And hey, why not use your LinkedIn posts? Because you're such a great, consistent content creator. And I think anybody, whether you're considering it or you do have a business, it's so important to be consistently creating content, and creating content that adds value, like your presentations, your sessions that you do, your podcast, your articles, everything that you put out is to serve. And that is one of the ways we appreciate people. Because if I attract you to my LinkedIn article, but really it's a sneaky sales pitch, how is that recognizing people? You have just stolen their time, which means shame on you. You don't deserve to have that follower. I'm sorry, that was getting real bossy here.
I like it.
However,
I like it.
I think we have to be throwing down some truths here, right? So anyone who is considering making a move, and I really think that every single organizational development or other experts that you have in your listener group that haven't chosen to leave their role yet, and even if you don't think you'll ever work for yourself, still be creating content, still be feeding into your network. It creates goodwill, it creates further relationships, more credibility for you. It certainly could get you a promotion or greater visibility. Lots of people drawn to your LinkedIn profile who are recruiting. And perhaps most importantly, and this is what we've seen over the last year, it demonstrates, because you are feeding value out into the world, that if you all of a sudden had to work for yourself one day, the industry that you're in collapses, or our pandemic goes on longer, no matter what happens, because we didn't see this coming, right, Leanne? Like, we weren't prepared. Same with our salary positions, same with people who are hourly. So if you're listening to this and you're considering it, still be creating content, because it adds value, it adds relationship equity, that theory of reciprocity. I keep reading your stuff and it's so valuable to me. And then you build your network so that you have more options down the road. And I will sometimes find out from people, as I'm sure you do, they've been consuming content for a long time, and you stay on their radar, and you stay in their headar, right? You stay in their their thinking. Yeah, I just made it up. There you go. You could maybe you'll call this podcast the headar recognition strategy. No, it's not very catchy. Yeah. That's what we want to do, right? And it's gifting your knowledge, your insight, your passion to them through some really valuable content, and you stay on their radar because it's valuable to them, not because you're just trying to blast all this always in their face.
Absolutely. And I started my podcast when I was working internally, and it was just because I wanted to find out more about facilitation. But the side effect, Sarah, was unbelievable. Like everything that you've talked about, the network just increased, the credibility. I was suddenly hanging out with all the executives. I was flying around the world. And before that, I was just an employee, just an employee in the organization. And then I was getting it just in the space of a few months, it just lifted. So I'm the same as you. I actually got people, I had someone on LinkedIn contact me the other day and they said, oh, thank you so much for your content. You know, I love following it. And I checked out their profile. This person has all this knowledge. And I wrote back, I said, well, you've got to start sharing. Look at the work that you do. And they're like, oh, I just don't think I'm there yet. Do you find that people, I mean, do you hear that? It's like, what is it? And I was like, I'm so curious. Like, what would it take for her to think that she was there? And I, what, yeah, it really.
It's such a great question for us as facilitators, because we are often there in service of the group. We show up as open vehicles in which to ask powerful questions and provide a container so that people can explore and find their own answers, right? I mean, you may have a more articulate definition than that, but really that's what we're doing, isn't it? We're trying to bring out the best in the individuals in the group, and we're trying to create a space where they can be that. So we sometimes don't think of ourselves in that. We know, obviously, we have to have lots of skills, and we've done so many certifications and designations. I mean, I think facilitators are among the most educated, experienced, courageous, curious people out there. I have huge respect for every facilitator that I've ever had the privilege of working with. And yet, because we're always in service of others, we sometimes undervalue. And especially if your network are all of these other facilitators, you compare yourself to somebody who's maybe been in 25 years or who wrote a book, or perhaps they have this interesting formula, or they're just so kitschy and creative with how they manage to package people's information. We maybe minimize the unique value we bring to the table. So I guess there's two little mindset hacks I would offer facilitators. Number one, what is the burning question, problem, issue that if you had the secret ingredient to that, or some way that was never going to be a problem for the people that you serve and you support, what would it be? And write about that, because you're helping them and you're coming from a place of service and your own knowledge, because that's what you do when you're in the room. You're just turning the medium into written. And if you don't like written, here's your second hack. It's just turn on the video. It could be from your webcam, it could be from your phone, and just talk about something that you think would be helpful. And you could turn that into content, either a YouTube channel, Vimeo channel. Vimeo is good, by the way, if you want to keep people in your space and you don't want people to potentially get distracted by what's the latest movie by Ryan Gosling or another or whatever. But you could also put it on your Instagram profile, your Facebook, of course, LinkedIn, and so forth. So if your medium, sometimes the barrier with facilitators is, but I'm not a writer. I don't like to write. So create in any mechanism, any medium that you find valuable. If you are a graphic artist and you design things by visually depicting it, perfect. Do that, design it, whether it's on your iPad or on a flip chart and you take a picture and you share it, share your genius. And because all it takes is just putting it out there one time and you get somebody saying that was really helpful, resharing it, it was valuable, for you to go, okay, A, that wasn't so painful, and B, I got a chance to help. You're just serving in a different way than perhaps you normally do. And think about how much more value you can add to people that you will never meet, that you will never be able to facilitate as many people or events or discussions as you will want to, even if you facilitate for 50 years. However, imagine if tomorrow you could help somebody that if you manage to facilitate 51 years, that's the person or that's the issue that you'd finally be able to help. Well, why not do it now? Why not do it tomorrow? So I say just get started and ask for forgiveness later. What's the worst that's going to happen? 3 people look at it and 2 of those people say, I don't agree. Okay, you're a facilitator. You're used to people not agreeing with you. So yes, you can handle it. But that won't happen, by the way. You won't have just 3 people. You'll be shocked. Hundreds, thousands, people reshare it. I think you'll be amazed once you start just how much people pick it up.
I agree. My metric for success with the podcast was if 50 people listen to it, and if I get 50 people in my Facebook group, I'm happy. And it's just, you just don't know.
And now?
Yeah, now we've got 1,600 people in that group. And it's just, but not only that, it's not about the metric, it's about the quality of the engagements within the group and the connections and the ideas. I'm so driven by the ideas being shared. And you never know, we have, again, this negative bias that's like, oh, things won't work out. And of course, I had that self-talk. You just do it. You just put it out. You see, well, that wasn't so bad. And then just a content thing the other day, I like to pick up on things that irritate me a little bit and I create content. So the other day, what was irritating me was that I sign up for all these webinars and I never have the time to watch them again. And so I did a podcast recording about that because it was just on my mind. And even also something that you'll SMS to someone and share. Couldn't that be a post? If it works for one person. Yeah.
Here's an efficiency hack that I've started to related to that is when I reply in detail to somebody's LinkedIn post in a message, I'll share it out onto my page. And I might think I could expand a little bit further on that to be a blog post. And that now becomes future blog posts. And I use Trello to keep all of my finished blog posts ready, my finished but not scheduled yet, and then my in progress. So I have a lot of that are just strangely voice dictated, and I'm not entirely sure when I recorded it. It's kind of weird, but the point is you can sort of copy and paste that into a device where, however you organize your content, or if you haven't started creating it, how you might start keeping a bit of a library of content that you shared, because your reply to somebody's LinkedIn posts, if it's a paragraph long, that's content. How many characters is a tweet? So my gosh, if that's now the size of content, a tweet or an image on Instagram with a few hashtags, if that's now the size of content, I think all of us who reply thoughtfully to somebody's LinkedIn, we now have content. We actually are content creators. We just don't think of it that way. So consider that first. If you don't want to write a LinkedIn article, share somebody's content and write a sentence or two about it with some hashtags. You can gain some momentum slowly to give you some confidence and build your credibility and build your connections. You have 50 connections you can have for free without belonging to any LinkedIn plan. So why not connect with all the people who responded to articles that you responded to or new things that you put out there, and you see second, third connections, and you build your network that way. And they are your people because they're connected to your people and they like, and they're part of the same discussions. So it's a beautiful opportunity when you can start to take what you would normally do in a small group and put it out there into the universe to be part of a broader conversation. We keep talking about how digitally we're so disconnected. Well, what are we doing to reconnect? And that social media is not just evil, it can be for good. And LinkedIn is the perfect place where facilitators can add huge good and huge value in the world.
Good prompt, Sarah. I actually need to do that. And you've given me a low friction way of doing that. I just posted something recently. It's been getting lots of comments and likes from second and third connections. And I keep saying, oh, yep, tomorrow I'll go connect. But after this podcast, I said, well, it's Friday today. It's like my day to do stuff like that. So that's the question I would love to ask you. I'm sure everyone's thinking about it is the major objection with doing this is facilitators are great at running these workshops, but it's the marketing side and the content creation. You've given us some easy ways of getting our work out there. Again, I'm as an observer from across the oceans, I'm like in awe of your ability just to create content, put it out. You're so consistent, your newsletter, like how do you do it? It's a very open question. How do you do it?
Yeah, I don't consider it creating content. I consider it having a conversation with people that I'm not in the same room with. My undergrad is in psych, my master's family therapy. I worked in hospitals and not-for-profits my whole career. I am not a marketer. I am a talker. I'm a professional speaker. And when I was little, my parents used to pay me not to talk. So it's funny how it's flipped to the other side. People are willing to pay me. But the point is, I like to have conversations with people. And I really value what I specifically talk about, which is recognition. I really want to fight for the underdog, the undervalued person who never gets acknowledged, the industry that has such a turnover crisis. People are they're exhausted, they're burning out. There's so many things that make me so passionate. So that's how I look at creating content. If I really feel passionately, I might throw in a Facebook Live. I'm not really big into stuff like that. It's more, as I say, it's responding to people's posts and then turning those into larger pieces of long form content. Before COVID, I used to have my videographer come over and we would film vlogs back to back. And then once COVID hit, it wasn't safe for us to be in the same room. And it would be very funny if I was behind a mask the whole time. So we couldn't physically get together. So we had to evolve it yet again. But that's okay because the mission was still the same. Okay, it couldn't be in a vlog, which was translated by rev.com. And then I would rewrite it. And then we would post it in a newsletter, post it to a LinkedIn article, and then use our CRM, which I use ActiveCampaign to to get it out to my mailing list, and then share it out to the various social media forms. That's the process that I use.
Right. So, Sarah, you've really brought up a good point about making it super easy to just get your content, something you've written already, and repurpose it. Because the major objection that I hear from facilitation business owners or anyone trying to build their brand around content is that I don't have the time. I don't have the time. And Sarah, you're a busy woman, a busy business owner. Like, how do you do it? How do you create the time?
If you have a system and you keep working on the system so that it works for you, then it's a lot easier. Let me take a step back. Make a promise to somebody so you're accountable. If you have an email list with 5 people on it, even though your mother and your sister may be 2 of the 5, you have now made a promise, and whatever frequency you've decided and pushed a little bit far beyond your comfort zone. Same with if it's LinkedIn and you're going to be posting an article once a month. Put it out there. Don't just say to yourself, oh, I'd really like to. Actually set a goal, and then you'll be accountable. You don't want to let people down, including yourself. And then find a process. So when I really started to get serious about content creation, I would have my videographer come over once a month, maybe once every other month, depending on how many videos we could create. And we would film 5-minute videos, usually in 1 or 2, maybe 3 takes, if I was really, needing lunch or something. And then that once he edited those, now I have a she, so edited those, they would get transcribed. We use rev.com. I take those, reformat it. Initially, it was me doing, all the reformatting. Now I have an assistant. So as soon as you can afford it, find a bookkeeper and find an assistant, because it will make creating content so much more delicious because you're not doing all the manual things, and you get a chance to save your brain and your heart for the things that matter most. So having people help me to proofread it, edit it, put it into the system that you're going to push it out, whether it be MailChimp for a free membership at first. I use ActiveCampaign. What do you use?
I use ConvertKit.
Yeah. So another great system. And LinkedIn, of course, is yet another place where you have a quasi blog, sort of in the form of a LinkedIn article. And so create content in the easiest way for you. That's what worked for me for a couple of years. COVID hit, couldn't get together with my videographer. So we started taking a look at doing posts of taking pieces of content that I created and putting them together so it's relevant and topical for the time. I got very bored of doing that. Turns out it felt like I was dialing it in. And the whole point of creating content is to be relevant to people. And so I was trying to shoehorn my content into a context, and it just felt flat. So what I ended up evolving to is answering questions that people were asking for the answer to. So that became the focus. So all of my posts started to have a question at the top as the title. And that worked for a while. And then once the questions sort of started to get repetitive, then I shifted it yet again. And that was to whatever I was sharing and reply to other people's LinkedIn posts. And I would then share that out to my own wall, pull that down, build on it, especially if I was weighing in on that in a few different places, probably a few different angles. And then I organize myself using Trello so that my assistant can see what articles are finished, but they haven't been scheduled, and what content have I started to think that I might want to produce. And then it kind of sits in that quasi, is it going to turn into something? Is it just a strange idea, or is it actually going to be something really good? So thinking about ideas, sharing it out there in real time, relevant discussions, such as through LinkedIn, such as conversations like we're having today. Yeah. I will no doubt think about a few of the things that we talked about and pull that into a blog post so that when you release your post, that'll go on my newsletter. And then I'll also be able to build on it and share some other things that I've thought about that maybe weren't in the moment, that additional things that I'm thinking about from our conversation. So hopefully what people can see here when I describe that is there is no one perfect formula. Even once you find what works for you, it will still change. And efficiency will help you so much. And being able to get ahead of things and being able to have content in the queue, as I say, I use Trello to organize my thoughts and organize my time frame. So just start producing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Believe me, if I look at some of the videos that I filmed first, I want to cringe, but they're still out there because the likelihood that somebody's going to discover them is pretty low. But the point is, you just put it out there before it's perfect. And because you're just trying to serve, you're just trying to help, no pressure, just share, create content that's of value, and somebody's going to find it of value, and that's going to create a reinforcing loop to you.
So, I mean, the mindset around it is like putting it out before it's perfect, but also the efficiency side, I think it's extremely important because we are probably creating so much content every day through the workshop conversations we discuss, the questions that we answer, the thoughts in our own minds. It's just how do you capture that? So you've given us a tool like Trello. Mine is so archaic, and I love that you've said wherever you start now doesn't have to be your forever home. I walk and I get an idea and I'll write the idea down, like 2 words, and then podcast so I can search for it. Just my little way of going. So if I'm doing a solo podcast episode, I might look back and find it. But I'm the same as you. Like I could have that thought 2 weeks ago, and then I get a thought today and it's so urgent. I have to get it out. It's so topical, it's trending. And it's like, now it needs to be released now. And I think that's when your mindset around just put it out there. Speed, getting it out is probably the more important thing than getting it perfect, getting it to the 99th, 100%. Yeah,
exactly. And you will actually then have the Google algorithm and all the other algorithms working for you because they're like, oh, look at Leanne's posting a few times a day and she's responding to content as well as sharing it. And it's not all from this automatic mailing system and the social media systems that surround our business that we have no real influence on unless you're spending thousands on SEO. And still that changes every day. So just when you've got that really high SEO, it could change by the next day. Whereas we have control over how much we put out there. And if we're always trying to perfect it, if we want to make sure that nobody's going to have a problem or it's always got to be the most controversial or the most trendy, then it causes us to hold back. Now, other people may not agree. They may think as a professional, you have to have polish. And that's fine. If that works for you and if that's relevant and essential for your industry, by all means. My sister and her husband are economists. They're not going to put out something until it is perfect. But that's what they're hired to do, is be precise. What you and I talk about it's gray. It's a gray area. So why not add to the conversation rather than keep it for yourself? Because there'll be nobody to debate with if you just keep it to yourself.
Yeah. And that's it. We're starting a conversation, right? And I think you said it earlier, you said it's not about, like, you don't think about it as content, you think about it as conversations. And I think that is even a cooler mindset to have, because when I think of a conversation, I think of an interaction and something I'd say to a friend, which makes my posts more appealing as opposed to putting something out for the masses that may not even land with anyone. So it's so many, just through the conversation, like us right now, I'm just picking up so much from you, Sarah. Thank you so much. So if our listeners want to find out more about your work, I mean, what a tremendous human you are, all the recognition programs and speeches that you offer, where should we send them?
You can come on over to greatnessmagnified.com. In fact, depending on when this is released, you may find a shiny new website. End of the fall, probably this article will go out before then, but come back and see us in a few months too, because I have been working very hard with a branding expert and web designer to create a beautiful new website. 18 months so far we've been working on it. It's taken me longer to create this next iteration of my website than grow my babies, but that's okay. Once it's birthed, at least it won't have to pay for its education. So, yeah.
The maintenance won't be as much. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, great. Well, we'll definitely pop a link to that. And of course, reach out to Sarah, connect with her, just see her amazing recognition just through the way that she demonstrates her work and the way that she shows up in the world. Sarah, it's always great connecting. Thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for sticking around. You've reached the end of another episode of the First Time Facilitator podcast. Connect with the show at firsttimefacilitator.com. or follow me on Instagram at Leanne Hughes to find out what I'm up to during the week. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share it with someone who will also appreciate the insight, and make it easier for yourself and subscribe to the show in your podcast player of choice. Thank you so much for listening, and chat to you next week.